Hey everybody, it's TV personality and host of The List, Kristina Guerrero, and you are listening to Life After the Crown with Tim Tialdo.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Life After the Crown podcast, where each episode I bring you interviews with former pageant contestants, title holders, and women of influence who are now succeeding across many different industries in the real world. My name is Tim Tialdo, TV and pageant host, entrepreneur, author, and somebody who just wants to help you become better. Now, if you're wondering what life looks like after pageants, the advice, the stories, and the interviews that you hear on this podcast will not only inspire you, but help make your transition from pageants to professional life a bit easier to handle. So if this is your first time listening, thanks for tuning in. We're glad you're with us. Let's get started. My guest today is an internationally recognized pop culture expert, having been a host and correspondent on E! News for 6 years. She spent her career on the red carpets asking the hard-hitting entertainment questions like, what are you wearing and who are you dating? She has interviewed the likes of George Clooney, Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts, and she currently hosts the syndicated lifestyle show The List. In addition, she is an Emmy nominee, a published writer, an actor, and a producer, where her work on Eva Longoria's ESPN documentary Go Sebastien Go prepared at the Tribeca Film Festival. She also just completed co-creating and co-writing her first pilot script, Adulting, with her husband. She resides in Los Angeles and Phoenix, Arizona, with her husband Gibby, son Mateo, and dog Jeter. Kristina Guerrero, welcome to the podcast, and congrats on such a successful career so far.
Thank you so much. When you put it all like that, I'm just like, wow, when do I retire?
Well, yeah, gosh, I think it's a long time before you do that. But, you and I share something in common. We both worked at Access Hollywood, kind of right out of college. Talk about, where your career started and how you got to where you are right now.
Well, I've always wanted to be in television. I wanted to be in front of the camera since as far back as I can remember. And, when little girls were watching Barbie, playing with Barbie dolls, I was watching Mary Hart on Entertainment Tonight and just longing for this career in Hollywood and red carpets. And so, I did the Hollywood cliche when I was 19 and packed up my bag and left my small town and moved to Hollywood and ended up at USC, where I graduated with a degree in broadcast journalism. But my real success my early success is attributed to all of the grinds that I did when I was interning and a production assistant at 4:00 in the morning and ripping scripts and getting coffee for executive producers and talent. And that was my opportunity to really to pay attention, to kind of learn behind the scenes. I always figured in order to be great in front of the camera, I should be great behind the camera. And that was kind of my strategy. And I wanted to work on the red carpet. So a lot of people, as you know, go to college with a broadcast journalism degree, and they're told to go to Billings, Montana, or Midland, Texas, these smaller markets. And I thought that was great for the people who wanted to do that. But for me, I always wanted to work in Hollywood. So I started, being a production assistant on red carpets. Anytime that I could get myself on a red carpet to interview a celebrity, I did that. And so by the time I graduated from college, I had a reel with some pretty cool celebrity interviews before I even graduated college. So that is how the early part of my career pre-being on TV kind of started.
You and I are kindred spirits in that regard. You said so many things that were exactly like me. You were watching Mary Hart. When I was 13 or 14, I was watching John Tesh and Bob Goen on the same show going, I would love to do that someday. Right. And sure enough, right out of college, I got an internship at Access Hollywood working for, as you know, Rob Silverstein. He and I would be the only ones to show up at 4:00 in the morning. I would give him the trade papers. He would start reading and getting the shows ready. And I ended up traveling that route that you talked about that most people don't like to. I ended up not in Billings, Montana, but Clarksburg, West Virginia. Let me tell you, I loved it.
Yes.
Not at all. I hated it.
No,
I hated every moment of it.
Well, I do appreciate, because I talk to interns now or production assistants who have gone on to do the smaller markets. And I do think it's a great opportunity this is the time to make the mistakes. This is the time when not very many people are watching or judging you per se. And so this is the time to go out and have a good time, because once you get to the big times, man, the pressure, I'll tell you what, is not easy to deal with sometimes. But I always think that it's, I didn't take that route, but it's, I think it's still, a good notch on the board for sure.
Well, let's tell the audience a little bit about why you are on here now. As you obviously know, you never did a pageant. You aren't a former pageant contestant or title holder, but you fall into what I call the women of influence category. In the pageant world, your job, literally your job, is probably one of the most sought after type of careers that, many of these girls want to do when they graduate from the pageant world. And
Sure.
so, I think when they hear you and see you and watch you, they're going, how the heck do I get to become Kristina Guerrero? Maybe just some
Right.
advice for those girls who are either in high school or college right now and saying, I want to do what she does one day.
Well, I will tell you, and I kind of started the podcast with this, is it really took a lot of hustle and a lot of grind in the very beginning. I was never above getting coffee for somebody. I was never above changing the copy machine paper. I went in there to learn and to pay attention. And I had to do these things. I had to pay my dues and do these things in order to work my way up. I needed to do these things so that people took me seriously. I think a lot of times, women can get, kind of get a bad rap. Like, oh, you're cute and you're pretty and you think you can just be on TV. So I feel like there has to be this work ethic and this going above and beyond to prove that, hey, I'm in it because I can be great at this.
What you're talking about, I believe there's a name for it. I think they call it News Barbie. Does that sound about right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so, and I understand that, like, I get that. I went to University of Southern California. I was in the broadcasting program. And there were a lot of people who were in that program who eventually realized that it's a lot of schlepping work, and ultimately went off to the theater department. They wanted to be actresses or whatever the case may be. And that's great. But there's it's not all glitz and glamour when it comes to broadcasting or being in this business. Certainly as a person who ended up at E and on the red carpet with glitz and glamour, it certainly can come with the territory. But even then, there's still a lot of work that goes into it.
Well, let's talk about your degree at USC. So you got a broadcast journalism degree, and there's a lot of people getting those degrees right now thinking, I'm going to get into a job. And when they think of the word journalism, they automatically think news.
Right.
Journalism is so much more than news, but talk about how you parlayed that into a career in hosting, not just becoming a news anchor.
A news anchor. Yeah, I always thought that I had from the time that I was very little, my mom used to tell me to stop talking to strangers because I will talk to anybody. I just have a natural inquisitive nature, and I'm a people person. I love being around people. And so I always knew that being a newscaster wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. So when I went to journalism school, I always had my eye on the prize. I always knew that it was entertainment journalism and being a TV personality that I wanted to become. And so I not only studied broadcast journalism, but yes, at USC, you can get a minor in the entertainment industry. And so I wrote a thesis on why Britney Spears matters in 2002. And in my defense, it's 2018 or 2019 rather. In my defense, it's 2019 and she's still relevant. So
somehow she is.
So yeah, exactly. Somehow she is. Yeah. So I also was in the communications program at the University of Washington when I first started, and realized that if I wanted to work in Hollywood, then I needed to be in Hollywood. And I needed to get my foot in the door any way that I could. And so interning in the entertainment department at Fox 11 News in Los Angeles was kind of the route that I took. And, interviewing, going to junkets with, junkets. I'm not sure if you're yeah. So you're familiar with them, but I wasn't sure if your audience was familiar with movie junkets where the stars all get together in these hotel rooms to promote their movies. And so I just, I made myself available to any entertainment opportunity that I possibly could. I made friends with producers who would produce entertainment. I made friends with entertainment anchors and entertainment journalists. And I just wanted to learn the ways.
So you hosted a show in San Antonio, Texas called Great Day San Antonio. My show in St. Louis, Great Day St. Louis, was modeled after your show, your specific show. I remember them showing me the tape and saying, "This is Kristina Guerrero. We want you to be like her." And I was like, "Okay." Wow.
You're like, but she's really green and she's not quite polished. But
she's not male, so how am I going to do this?
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, there's that part too.
But where did the path take you away from LA to San Antonio, and then eventually kind of getting back there?
Yeah. So as I said, I graduated from USC in 2003, and I got some great opportunities right off the bat. And Access Hollywood was one of them. I was so green, I was so inexperienced, but I think I had some moxie and I had some tenacity, and so they gave me a shot to be on the red carpet. And I think that I had some raw talent, enough to get an agent who would represent me. And so once I'm on the red carpet with Jim Carrey at, having just graduated college, I'm like, oh my God, I have arrived. I have arrived. I am just going to be the superstar that I know I was born to be. And certainly reality kicked in pretty quickly thereafter, and people weren't calling me. And I called my agent and I'm like, what's going on? I was on Access Hollywood, and he said, Kristina, you need to get your master's degree in TV hosting. And I'm going to send you to San Antonio to host a show that is a lifestyle morning show. And it is on the job training, 1 hour live every single morning, you being you, but learning how to anchor a TV show. And I thought, no, thanks. I'm in Hollywood. Thank you very much. I interview Jim Carrey and I can't go to San Antonio. And he said, just trust me. And so I went to San Antonio to visit. I loved the concept of the show where I got to be me. I got to be Kristina, 24-year-old Kristina, who was, spunky, said things that I probably shouldn't have said, but it was morning and we were having a great old time. And they gave me the freedom to just have fun. And we were able to take that morning show from number 3 in the ratings for a local show. We did really well. It was number 1 sometimes. I think it's because it was very localized. Obviously, local TV does really well in local markets. But we had a really good time on that show. And I think we brought some youth. We brought some fun. We didn't feel like we were talking, even though our audience was older, as we were always told. I'm like, people don't want to be told that they're old. People want to be entertained. They want to feel like, hey, I'm talking to you. You're my friend. I don't care that you're 85 years old. You can come and have a dance party with me at 8 a.m. too. And we just had a really good time. But my agent, Ken Lindner, was absolutely right. I needed a master's degree in hosting live television. And it really gave me a foundation to learn my craft that I would never have done had I just been picking up little gig jobs here and there in Los Angeles. It was great on the job training.
Well, and I know for a fact you guys had tremendous Nielsen ratings down there. That's why, the company that I worked for ended up saying, hey, we want to actually model our own show after this, what this girl's doing down in San Antonio. Did I see some tapes where you actually had a live audience some days? Some days we would, and it just kind of just depended on who was our guest that morning. If the guest happened to be,
the dance squad and all their parents showed up, then we might have a studio audience of 50 people, which was always fun. But typically, no, it was just the guests that were in the audience.
So you go on to host on E! For, I think, 6 years. You actually hosted a show with a former Miss USA host, Terrence J. Talk about your experience at E! And kind of how that helped you evolve into where you're at today.
Well, yeah, after San Antonio and doing that show for 3 years, the promise that my head agent had made me was that, if I followed through on this for 3 years, that he promised to bring me back to LA. And so he made good on that promise. I had met Annie Roberts, who was I believe she still is, Annie Roberts is casting at E! I'd met her when I was in college, and she was like, I think Kristina's really great, but she's really green and she needs to go out and learn her craft. And when I came back after 3 years, they called up Annie and they said she is back in LA and she's learned her craft. She's paid her dues. And so I got an opportunity to, be on E! News. That was like the dream. I mean, it was Entertainment Tonight. It was the wrong E, but it was still, it wasn't
Was
ET,
it the old Steve
E.
Kometko and what was her name that used to be on there?
It wasn't Steve Kometko, but Juliana was there and Ryan was there when I got there.
Okay.
I was 26 at this point, and I was like, how in the heck did my wildest dreams just come to fruition? And it was very surreal, and it was very jarring at times. There's no doubt about it. It was not always, an easy road for me because the success did come very early. And I don't know that I was quite ready for all of the pressure that all that entailed. And so I had to do a lot of work while I was there on myself and on my own confidence and my own abilities. Being in Hollywood will definitely take its toll on your psyche and bring out all of your insecurities for, the whole world to see if they come out. And so there was a lot of pressure for me having done that, mainly because of where I come from. Now, way back when, I grew up in a very, very poor family with my mom was on welfare. My dad was an alcoholic and out of jail my whole life. And We were Mexican American and just didn't have a whole lot of anything. And so when I said that I was going to go out and be in Hollywood, everybody kind of was like, that's not really for people like us. That's never going to happen. And so having come from that, and then now standing on set with Ryan Seacrest and Juliana Rancic and interviewing people like George Clooney, I was like, wait, how did that girl end up here? And are they going to find out that I'm not who I say I am? Of course I am all the while. I am the person that I am, but all those insecurities certainly come up. And so I had to work on myself a lot, but it was the dream. It was the dream come true, interviewing Julia Roberts and Sandra Bullock. And, I went to Istanbul and was on the set of a James Bond movie. And it was, I was at the Oscars and the Emmys, all of these things that I had dreamed of. And then here I was, I had made it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. I want to dive into that because there's some really good stuff there. Number one, Hollywood is infamous, and especially agents and agencies are infamous for telling you what you can't do.
Right.
And, it sounds like you probably had a little bit of that as well. I've had it in my past. How did you overcome the stigma of just being told that you can't do something, regardless if you're Mexican American or if you grew up poor or anything, just overcoming the fact that somebody said you can't do something and you said, you know what, yeah, I can?
I always say that it's divinely intended. I always say that it was a gift from God, that I didn't take any of the things that people told me, whether it was family back home or agents or executive producers that said you can't do this. It really rolled off of me like nothing. Because I look at it now, I'm going to be 40 this year. And I'm like, who was that tenacious 22-year-old that said, if somebody's got to do it, then why can't it be me? I'm proud of her. I don't know that I could still be that same person, but I always say that it was just a God-given gift, that I was intended to do this line of work, that I was intended to realize my dreams. And because of that, all of that was able to just kind of roll off of me.
Well, and having written a book about the industry, I looked back over your career. You have done a masterful job of how you've kind of graduated along the way up to where you're at now with The List. And I know the agency you work with has something, Ken Linder and Associates has something they call career choreography.
Right.
Talk about how you've kind of embraced that mentality, I guess, as you've gone through your career as to how you're going to make one step and how that's going to turn into the next step and the next step.
Well, it's interesting because now, of course I can see it back and, I've been doing this now for 20 years, if you consider when I was an intern, but I can look back in hindsight and see how it's all kind of been choreographed from, just getting my first break on Access Hollywood and thinking that I had arrived and being knocked down and realizing, nope, you have to learn your craft, and getting sent to San Antonio and, building my master's degree there, I like to call it, in live television hosting, and then going to E and then also not feeling that was the be all end all either, right? That also might feel like, wow, I have made it. This is it. But here's what happened with me at E is that I was a correspondent, and I certainly hosted, when it was on set, but I was never going to be the quarterback of that show. And I wanted to be the quarterback of a show. And in order to be seen that way, I had to walk away from that opportunity and allow another opportunity to present itself. And that's kind of how I ended up at The List. So The List is a nationally syndicated show. It's produced out of Phoenix, which is insane to me that there is a syndicated show that is produced out of Phoenix, Arizona.
No kidding.
Not, you've got Chicago or you've got New York or LA, but here it is in Phoenix, Arizona. And they were looking for a host, and it was everything that I wanted to do. I had done entertainment news for so long and really, really loved it, but was ready to take a step away from Hollywood and asking 12-year-olds who they were dating, because I'm an adult woman and I'm like, maybe I don't need to know that. And so really wanted to get into more of the lifestyle aspect of television. And so here is this job that is not looking for a correspondent, is looking for the quarterback of a show. And I took a leap and jumped, and am having the time of my life.
Well, you're defying the odds because, number one, you're working on a syndicated national television show that is not, as you mentioned, produced in L.A., which, when I talk to hosts all across the country, That's one of the biggest issues that many of them have is I don't want to live in L.A. or New York. How do I become a big host? And it's
Right.
a challenging road, but you're doing it right now in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, if you would have told me this, I mean, I've been here now 2.5 years. If you would have told me this 3 years ago that I would be doing a show in Phoenix, Arizona, I would tell you that you were lying. That was never going to happen. But the game, the television, the syndicated game has changed tremendously. I mean, it's changed just in the last 5 years on how people are syndicating shows and how they're selling shows. And, especially with the rise of internet and YouTube and those kinds of shows and, digital shows. But it's not the same as it was even 5 or 10 years ago where you had to be produced out of a major production company out of LA or New York.
So what made you want to kind of get out of LA? Was it just the whole Hollywood, feel of asking stupid questions all the time, or?
I had just had my son, and I had there was a couple of things. I had just had my son, which gave me great perspective. I felt like I had asked every single celebrity a question that maybe I wasn't really that interested in. Tell me about your hair color. Tell me about who you're dating. And, it all seemed very
petty
and not, it's just, it wasn't organic anymore for me. It wasn't as exciting as I wanted it to be anymore. Because like I said, there's a lot that goes into it. People that don't want to talk to you, publicists that are mean to you, celebrities that are just not kind. And I mean, this of course is the exception to the rule. For the most part, it's a great time. But at that point in my life, I'm like, I've done this for 6 years. I'm not growing in my career. I'm a correspondent, and I'm ready to grow and to be bigger. And so that is kind of why I walked away from that.
So do you coexist a little bit in Phoenix and LA now? I mean, do you still go to LA to do a lot of shoots? Well,
it's so interesting. I thought that I would be in LA all the time. I was like, well, Phoenix is such a great opportunity and a great city because it's so close to LA. We'll be back all the time. My husband's also in television production, and we find that we love the lifestyle that Phoenix and Scottsdale affords us, that we don't really need to go back as often as we thought we would. And, the opportunities that I do go back for, are I can hop on a plane and be there in 30 minutes if I need to.
So let's talk about the list. It's obviously your big job right now. It's,
yes.
By the way, an Emmy award-winning show for those of you listening, not a regional Emmy award-winning show, a national Emmy award-winning show. There's actually 2 different types of Emmys. I don't think a lot of people know that. My wife and I were actually just scrolling through Hulu the other night, and there it was. And I said, oh, it's Kristina. Let's take a watch. So tell everybody about the show if they haven't seen it, and if they have, they obviously just want to know it from your perspective.
Yeah. So the list is as I said, it's a syndicated lifestyle show. We cover everything from tech to fashion, lots of food, lots of drinks. It's kind of, and we don't ever cover celebrities, which is also kind of another break, because I know that we get inundated with like celebrity culture all the time. It's just kind of what you would, it's your favorite magazine, your favorite lifestyle magazine kind of put on the TV screen for you is kind of how I see it. So today, for instance, we do a lot of pet segments. So today I'm going to go do DIY pet snacks. And then last week I did the best Nerf blasters on the market right now. And I've done, the best fashion segment, or the best fashion for 2019 that's coming out. So it kind of runs the gamut. Actually, this other segment that I just recently did was, if you were a president, which cocktail would you drink? So we went and met up with a bartender, and he made us all of the former presidents' cocktails that they used to drink. So it's just a lot of fun, a lot of personality. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we hope that we can give some takeaway, and at the very least that people can laugh with us, not at us.
So it sounds like Great Day San Antonio was probably really awesome training ground for what you do now.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's you get to meet all kinds of walks of life. I think, that's the other thing about my natural inquisitiveness is that I can, be genuinely interested in anything that George Clooney has to say to, being excited for, the best cocktails that the presidents drank, while they were in office. So I just enjoy talking to people.
You're working in a national gig. You're a recognized face. You're doing awesome things in the business. But you mentioned something earlier that I'd like to dive into, because I don't think a lot of people get a chance to hear a perspective from a host like yourself on this. And that is, you mentioned how Hollywood, and just being on national television in general, you're going to face the good stuff, but you're also going to face a lot of the bad stuff. And it's going to tap into your insecurities and everything about you that, you look at and think, God, this might be a weakness. How, when you first really went through that and had difficulty with it, did you handle it? Because I think, in today's world with social media so brutal,
Yeah.
I can only imagine what it's like on a national level. How do you deal with it, and I guess what advice would you have on how to deal with it?
Gosh, that's such a great question, because it's kind of taken all kinds of different iterations throughout the journey. So the very beginning, I dealt with it probably I don't want to get too heavy, but I will say that, I went out a lot more. I drank a lot more. I would kind of try to numb all of those feelings of insecurity. And then once that clearly didn't work, I went more into the spiritual realm. So I was doing a lot more yoga. I was doing a lot more working out, really kind of getting in my head and meditating, to get out of my head, getting in my head to get out of my head. And then really what I found that has helped me the most is my faith and my belief in God. That has really, really changed my perspective on most things, and feeling like if I'm good enough for God, I'm probably good enough for Hollywood.
Did you ever feel like that perspective of, really diving deep into your faith was challenged in Hollywood?
Yeah, I do believe it was. I don't know that it was necessarily challenged. It wasn't cool. Right? Hollywood is cool.
Oh, yeah.
Hollywood is
They don't think
hip.
that at
Hollywood
all.
is fun. You're not thinking about going to church. What are you, 75 or, that's not with God. That sounds like organized religion is so blah. So there was nothing cool about it. So I don't even know that I necessarily thought of it as an option, because I wanted to be cool and I wanted to be hip. And so let me go do yoga and let me go, run on a treadmill. That's going to change everything. But it wasn't really until, and really it was just and these things don't ever happen by coincidence, but my son was in preschool and he was at a Christian nursery school. And I said, well, yeah, I should just probably go check out this church because it's at a Christian nursery school. Did not have any interest in being a part of a church or learning about God. And that moment kind of was a divine moment for me that really kind of was like, wait a second, I think this is probably what I need to heal a lot of my insecurities and a lot of the yuck that a lot of us feel, not feeling like we're good enough, whether it's television or anything, being a good mom or being, a good husband or a good wife or a good TV personality. All that stuff, kind of lives within us all. And so for me, I just found that digging deep into my faith has really kind of taken me out of that place.
Well, that's really great that you say that. And speaking of faith in Hollywood, I don't know if you remember, right outside of the Access Hollywood NBC studios there, if you took a right going out of the gate there's a church right down the street. I don't know if you remember seeing it or not. I actually went to that church a couple of times. Midwest guy coming from St. Louis, church-going boy.
Yeah.
I walked in, 7 people.
Right.
Seven people in the church. I'm like, did I come at the wrong time? And they're like, no, come on in. And I'm
no, yeah, welcome. Yeah, no, I just really didn't find that it was a priority. And I suppose everybody makes it their own priority. It wasn't my priority. I would much rather be drinking champagne at brunch in Hollywood on a Sunday than, necessarily being at church. But for me, as I've gotten older, I've really just kind of found that's my safe place.
Well, that's really cool, and I know a lot of the people listening will very much appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about another side of your career. Outside of hosting, you do some producing and narrating for ESPN Films. You've done a documentary for Eva Longoria, Go Sebastien Go. And then I read about the short-form documentary called The History of the Sports Bra. There's a good one. Tell me about how you got into that part.
Well, my husband, as I said, is also a producer and director. He owns a production company, and he has worked with Eva on many different projects. And she called him up one day and said, hey, I'm doing these really cool projects with ESPN, really taking a look at moments in sports that don't necessarily have anything to do with sports, but that were very culturally relevant. And so the first one, Go Sebastien Go, is a fantastic documentary about a little boy who is a very talented mariachi in San Antonio and was asked to perform the national anthem at one of the NBA Finals games and was just completely later online attacked because he is Mexican and he's Mexican American. And so we went in to tell about the story of how the San Antonio Spurs and the President Barack Obama and really the whole country rallied around this kid. So it ended up being an amazing feel-good story. And it went so well that they said, hey, we would love to do another documentary. And so my husband, was executive producing this documentary about the history of the sports bra. And he thought, who do I know that wears a sports bra every day? Kristina, can you come on board to be a producer? And this is the great thing about how things come full circle. You know, when I was first starting out, before I became on camera, I was producing and writing and paying attention. And so when these opportunities kind of presented themselves, I was like, yeah, I know how to produce. I know how to write. I know how to tell a great story. And so my ideas and my theory about if I can be great behind the camera, I can be great in front of the camera kind of came true, because then I was like, well, now I'm back being great behind the camera and I'm really good at it. So I had, I had both those kind of in my wheelhouse, which was really cool. So it kind of took me, after I left I was kind of just looking for my next project. These things kind of fell in my lap and I was able to produce on them, which was really, really cool.
Well, narrating that documentary must have been fun. Let's talk about the sports bra.
It was so fun. Well, when you say it, mine is more like, let's talk about the sports bra. See, had you narrated it, it would have been a much different documentary, I think.
I'll just do the open on it and we'll be good.
Yeah.
I love it. So you've actually gone on television and in movies to play basically what you do as a career. I believe you were on Code Black as a TV correspondent, and then you were in the movie Steve Jobs as some sort of field reporter. Talk about what it's like to play really yourself.
It's
as an
actually
actor.
harder. It's actually hard. It's not that easy, to be honest with you. I'm more of a, the way I host and the way I do my job is kind of off the cuff, in the moment. The things that I say, just kind of come out organically and very naturally. But when you're doing a movie and you're playing a reporter and you have to memorize lines, I was like, well, I don't even memorize my own lines in my real life. How am I going to memorize these lines? Memorizing lines is not my forte. I'm like, can we maybe this could be a little bit more loose, like talk showy? No, I don't say that, but it's certainly not that easy, but it's certainly one of the perks of what I do. And when I was in Hollywood, I feel like I just did another one for a TV show that I was able to do remotely. But when you're in Hollywood and when productions are looking for reporters, usually they'll go for an actor to play a reporter or whatever. They'll usually go to real reporters. So I've been able to kind of do that a little bit, which is always fun to be on a big set and action and directors and extras and movie stars and stuff, which has been pretty cool.
Well, that's really cool. So you are a mom now. You have a husband and your son, Mateo, and I believe you have a dog. Talk about life as a family woman, being a host, as opposed to when you were that go-getter, young, spunky kid that just wanted to get into hosting.
Well, it's funny. I've said this many times before, motherhood was never in my plan, never in my life plan. I had always been very career driven. I had always thought, I can't really have a family because if at the drop of a hat, I need to go to Good Morning America because I'm going to report on the Academy Awards and I need to be ready to go.
I think most hosts think like that.
Right, exactly. I'm like, I can't have family and babies holding me back from all the things that I meant to do in my career. And man, did that just turn itself on its head when I had Mateo, who just has brought the most joy to my life. And
doesn't it change your life?
And it's so funny because I talk to young girls a lot and they're just like, oh, I don't want to get married. And I'm like, oh, I know. And you don't have kids. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, but it's given me a depth and an empathy that I have never known before. And that makes me a better host. So I'm not saying like, oh, I had a baby so I could become a better host. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, I think that I was a fine host before, but what it has given me, being a mother, what that has given me a greater depth that I would never have known otherwise. And I think that makes me a better host and a better person to listen to a story and ask questions and feel and know where somebody else is coming from.
Well, tell me if this sounds right, because I have a little 9-month-old girl upstairs. And,
awesome.
I've been a host for a long time, too. And I think the one thing that it did for me is that what your passion and your drive used to be about interviewing celebrities and being on TV and being nationally recognized and being that face that everybody knows. And now you have this whole new organic passion that is right here at home. Yeah. And it's all that matters to you. And all you want to do is take care of them, make them proud of you, be their hero, and just raise them well and do everything that, makes them proud of you. And it's changed everything. It's
true. There's truly no place that I would rather be. Now, do I absolutely feel blessed that I get to do both? Absolutely. But my priority, and the thing that makes my heart beat is my son, Mateo.
Well, one more question before we jump into our speed round. So you're doing some pretty big things here. What is your dream job if you aren't already doing it?
Gosh, that's such an interesting question. I would say I would love to. I don't know. Wait, did we start our speed round yet?
No.
Okay, good. I was like, oh no,
take
I'm
your
ruining
time.
this speed
No,
round.
take your time on this one.
You know what? I don't know what the dream job is. There was a time where I always knew that the dream job was to be on a red carpet and to, interview celebrities. And I achieved that dream. And now I'm in a place in my life that there are so many things that I would love to do, but I'm in a place of receiving and letting God tell me where I need to go next. So, to say yes, would I love to be on Good Morning America? Absolutely. Is that my path? I don't know. Maybe. Would I love to sell a TV show, a scripted TV show, and, have it win a Golden Globe? Absolutely. Is that my path? Is that where I'm headed? I don't know. And so now I'm in a place where I'm so excited about what's next, but that I can't even fathom what it could possibly be at this point.
Well, I love that you're taking the divine guidance on that one. That is awesome. So just keep doing that. I know that'll lead you to the right place. All right, now it's time for the rapid fire get to know you game show questions. So again, this is totally fun. You don't need to be serious at all here. Just have some fun with it. Okay. There are 10 questions. Are you ready?
I got my tennis shoes on. I am ready for rapid fire.
All right, here we go. Number 1, would you rather wake up to an air horn blowing in your ear every day or wake up and have to run 4 miles every day?
Run 4 miles.
Really? But you got your tennis shoes on.
I know. That's why. Isn't what I rather? I would rather wake up and go to right. Is that how it goes? That's how it goes. Okay, so we'll take that. All right, number 2. What is your favorite clothing brand if you had to choose one? Target.
Target. Oh, that's surprising. Wow.
I know.
What do your agents think of that?
I know. I love shopping at Target. It's embarrassing.
All right. Number 3. Here we go. Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Milk chocolate.
Man, you're fast on these. These are fantastic.
Okay.
Number 4. Say something cool.
Something cool?
Like, what's something cool to you?
Well, you just said say something cool, so I
know you said it like you literally said something cool, but I want you to say something cool like you're cool, like I think I'm pretty cool.
Okay. Oh, this is what I always say, and I don't know that it's cool, but I say it anyway, but I'll say, oh, that's dope. I
love that's perfect. That's perfect.
That's so dope, yeah.
Number 5, polka dots or stripes?
Ooh, polka dots.
Polka dots. Number 6, would you go to a movie alone?
Yes, absolutely 100%.
And have you?
Yes, absolutely 100%. Also, I'm a mom. I will go anywhere where I can have some alone time.
I love it. Number 7, are tomatoes a fruit or vegetable?
Ooh, they are fruit.
I think that's correct. I don't actually
My son told me that. My 5-year-old.
We need to go back to kindergarten and figure that one out. Number 8, off the record, have you ever stolen anything?
Just my husband's heart.
Oh, that's such a good and cheesy answer at the same time. I love it. We'll take
it.
All right, number 9. If you were given the opportunity to fly into space, given today's technology, would you do it?
No, I don't like roller coasters.
So you're not going to take up Jeff Bezos on his new, space program that he's trying to get going?
You know what? If given the opportunity, I'm one of those people who would absolutely do it without thinking about it. And then once I'm up there, I'm like, what in the heck am I doing? You know what I mean? Like I went mountain biking one time and I saw all these mountain bikers up on the mountain. And I was like, I want to go do that. And then realized by the time I got to the top, I don't really know how to ride a mountain bike.
Well, that's kind of a prerequisite.
I'm just one of those people who jumps into the water and then once I'm in there realizes I can't swim. Like I'm that kind of person.
Okay, so no space flight for Kristina.
Yeah, I probably would say yes because it would be a once in a lifetime opportunity. You know what? I'm going to change my answer. I would do it.
You would do it. Okay, yeah. So we're changing that answer. Number 10, I have a qualifier question before we go. Do you journal?
Yes.
Okay, so if you journal, paper or computer?
Paper.
Why?
It just seems more personal to me. It seems more personal to me. I also have really nice penmanship.
So it's that nostalgic thing that you want to be able to open it up when you're 80 and say, hey, 40 years ago I wrote this. Well, let's take a look at what I wrote and what it sounded like.
The first time I journaled, I was leaving for California to go and realize my dreams of being on TV. And I still have that journal in my penmanship. That said, I'm going to LA and nobody thinks I can do it, but I'm going to do it or I'm going to die trying. Gosh, I had so much moxie.
If you have great penmanship, do you do thank you notes to everybody that you interview?
Not to everybody I interview, but I definitely do thank you notes.
Okay, very good. Very good. Well, guess what? You're off the hot seat. Nice job. That was probably one of the out of between you and Allie Landry. I don't know who was faster, but that was really good.
Well, it's so funny because you said rapid fire, so I take these things very literally.
You're like, no, let's go.
Oh, was it supposed to be more of a conversation?
No, that was perfect. Everybody kind of has their own tone and energy and pace about it. So I love when somebody takes it really fast and serious.
I imagined like a clock counting down, and I was running out of time.
Well, actually, for those listening, they probably don't know this. I actually edit in game show music over this,
how fun.
But when we record it, you can't hear it. So that's the funny thing. So very
Got
good.
it. Oh, how fun.
Well, hey, you're awesome. I love your energy. I love your style, your character. I love what you're doing with the list, and it's been such an honor and a joy to interview you today. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing all that you shared.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And who knows? Maybe we'll end up working together one day.
I have a feeling we're going to co-host. I'm just calling that out right now. I'm just going to put it out there.
All the things that we could co-host. I'm so intrigued.
Let's talk.
All right, Tim, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's episode, everybody, and to Kristina Guerrero for her time. And if you want to learn more about Kristina, go to IamKristinaGuerrero.com, or you can follow her on Instagram at Kristina Guerrero. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, everybody. And if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, the podcast app, Google Play, YouTube, or, of course, you can just go to lifeafterthecrown.com. And for weekly podcast updates, just follow me on Instagram at Tim Tialdo. Until next time, remember the words of 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 3 and 4. Don't be concerned about the outward beauty of fancy hairstyles, expensive jewelry, or beautiful clothes. You should clothe yourselves instead with the beauty that comes from within, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is so precious to God. Have a great week, everybody.